Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this morning's webinar. This morning, we will introduce you the new CEN BOSS page, and we will have a look at the preparation and submission of files in particular. This webinar is designed for CEN standard drafters. Please note that this afternoon at 2 o'clock, we will have a dedicated session for the CENLEC standard draft. So my name is Els, and I will be moderating the webinar in the background. Just to remind you about the housekeeping rules for today's webinar. You will all be muted during the presentation, so you're not able to speak out loud, but we do invite you to submit your questions via the Q&A panel that is available in the Zoom window for you. Should you be on Twitter, please feel free to tweet about the subject. We have the hashtag training for standards, and CEN and CENLEC can be found at Standards for EU. So without further ado, I would like to give the floor to my colleague Amy, who will guide you to the CEN BOSS page. So Amy, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Els. Good morning, everybody. So as Els said, today we'll be talking about the brand new CEN BOSS submission and preparation of files page. So we'll take a look at what's changed from the old previous version that wasn't so useful, and we'll talk about why it's important for you to know. We'll take a quick look through the page so you can see exactly what's there for you. And then we'll take a little look at the CEN Simple template, because we do have a new quick start guide available for you too. So we'll show you where you can find them and also why it's important as well for you. So preparation and submission of files. So what has changed? We effectively revamped the whole page. So we wanted to give you more applicable and relevant information. Some basic drafting guidance on the key points for drafting. We've got plenty of downloadable resources in there too. A useful FAQ section that has some actual questions that you've been asking us and that TC secretaries, members, drafters ask us too. And we've also given you some clear examples and how-tos as well. And this is important because these rules are updated according to the most recent internal regulations part 3, which were redrafted and updated in 2022, which we did inform you about, but we didn't really update any of the rules that we have with regards to drafting. And we also wanted to give you some clear guidance for drafting too, which is important as these tools change. So we want to keep everything nice and clear for you, nice and up to date, so that you can use these efficiently. So if we take a look at the actual page, so this is a link for you. So you can see there you have access to the link. It'll take you directly there. Just to show you how to find it from the CEN BOSS page. So we go to reference material. We go to, I think it's guidance documents, and then drafting guidance, and it's right at the bottom here. So preparation and submission of files. And if we click that, it opens in a new tab. So a quick scroll down, we've really revamped absolutely everything on this page. But let's go through little bit by little bit. So this document provides guidance of the key elements to be prepared and submitted to CCMC for all deliverables at the drafting stage. So it focuses mainly on inquiry and formal vote. So anything that's not at publication stage, effectively, this is what it covers. And this is for all deliverables. So this includes technical specifications and technical reports, and for the moment, amendments too. To the right-hand side, we have links to the internal regulations part 2 and the internal regulations part 3. So this preparation and submission of files page is like a condensed version of the IR3. But that's there for you if you want some additional information. And then we have some forms and templates too. So you have a harmonized EN checklist, a special one for construction, and the CEN Simple template as well. So clause 1 is talking about the draft deliverable. So what do you need to provide to us? So we tell you all of the elements that we need, including if it's harmonized standard. So it's worth taking a look through that. We've got some clickable links. So where there's something applicable here, you can just click through. I believe this downloads something for you right there. That should be fairly self-explanatory. We also have some notes in here because we recently had the update of the submission interface. So you can take a look there. That takes you over to the submission interface itself. There we go. So we can log in there. We then give you some information on each element itself. So the revisable word format, we want you to use the CEN Simple template. This is obligatory, so you have to use it. So this is, again, another download link for you. Downloads right here. I'll show you that in a little more detail shortly. It has to be clean, not contain any track changes, highlights, that kind of thing. We tell you how to name it as well, even if you have different language versions. The non-revisable PDF, we give you some information on that, and also we tell you why. So we've never really told you why you need these things. We've only just told you the what. So the reason we want a PDF from you is so that we can see the figures, the formulae, and any special formatting as well. And again, we give you the naming conventions too. We then talk about the figure files, but this does contain a whole clause, so clause 4, with some detailed guidance for the figure files too. You might find that you've got a different starting point for your inquiry or formal vote text. So if you're starting new work, you need to use the simple template, which you can type straight into. You need to take a look at the internal regulations part 3. And we also have a dedicated webinar for standards drafters series. This is from 2020, I believe, and 2021, but we will be updating it this year, hopefully. This contains a lot of different information for you on the key aspects of a European deliverable. So it's worth taking a look at that too. You might be, however, revising an existing deliverable. So if that's the case, there's a slightly different rule for you. You still need to use the current CEN simple template. You can copy and paste straight into it. I'll explain a little more on that shortly. Again, you can see the webinar for standards drafters series. This is also an update as well. It's mandatory to use the text edited by CCMC editors when drafting any revision. So if you don't have access to that text, you can send an email to Mail Production and they will be able to provide you with the text. Or if you have the contact details of an editor, you can ask us to. So we then have a huge section on figures and graphical elements. Again, we tell you why this is important, so to provide a comprehensive standards package, including the XML, which is why the figure files are so important. We also give you, and this is new, the internal regulations part 3 with the exact clause reference as well. So if you want some more information on this, in this case, it's layout guidance, you can go to clause 28 of the internal regulations part 3 and find that there. So some interesting information. There, we've taken all of this from the previous page too, because it was still applicable, but we've added some examples as well. So these examples are downloadable PDFs. So you can see here, where a figure title is used, the figure number shall be followed by a long end dash. See example 1 below. Well, what's an example 1? And it loads, hopefully it will. There we go. So we can see an example 1. This is what we have. These contain up to, I think there's 6 examples in this one. So you can scroll through, you have figures, you have explanations of everything as well, complementary to what's here. So these, you can save these if you want to and keep them for your future reference, but really it just opens every time. So again, we talk about subfigures, there's more examples, figure content rules as well. Again, everything has been taken from the internal regulations part 3. We give you the specific clauses. We try to explain why it's important as well. So usually it is for the XML, but with regards to figure content, it is also for the translators. So we ask that they're language neutral for the translators as well. Make it easy for them. We talk about the keys, any figure notes, explanations to figures too, and again, everything has a nice example. If you need to edit figure content, it's worth noting that CCMC doesn't have in-house capabilities to edit image files. We can do very basic work, but if you have to change the exact content, you do need to do that yourselves. So it shall be done, therefore, by TC and working groups. And if you don't have the ability to edit those files, you can always contact your NSB drawing offices as well. So hopefully that should be a little bit clearer. It's also worth noting if you edit the figure in Word or you use text box auto shapes, anything like that, it's not supported by XML. So we also explain this kind of thing because certain things aren't accepted by the submission interface anymore. So you really need to be careful. We talk about general technical rules as well, how to lay your figures out, boundaries. So this is more like the real technical stuff behind the figure file, so to speak, with some tolerances in there too. We also have another downloadable file for you, which is talking about the image quality check tool. So some tips and tricks for you. It's a minute to load. There we go. So again, this talks you through how to use the image quality check tool, which you can find on projects online. How to use it, what to do. We also have some troubleshooting as well. So how to use, you'll receive an Excel sheet that contains all of the possible error messages. So you can take a look through this and it will explain every aspect of that Excel sheet too. So if you are having some trouble with that, this should be your first point of call as well. This is very, very useful. And we do keep all of this up to date as well. Actually, this is due for an update itself this week. I believe on Thursday this will be updated, so keep an eye out for that if you do plan to use this in the coming week. So very useful, except for that final page, which is okay. So we also have a little section on exceptions and special cases, specifically flowcharts, organization charts, and forms which need to be editable as well. So clause 4 is all about providing figure and image files. So how to do this. So we've drafted this so that it can be in line with the internal regulations part 3 and also with the submission interface too. So if you follow this, you shouldn't really have any problems. So we talk about general, so designated figures, subfigures, all of that kind of stuff. Anywhere where you'll find a figure file or where you'll find that you need to have a figure file at least. Everything now needs to be provided in TIFF format. We give you some information on the naming. This is not obligatory, but it's strongly recommended so that the editors know which figure should go where in the text. There's some specific requirements as well for figure files, so it's worth taking a note of this. Again, you can see the downloadable resources that we have. Some links to the submission interface again. We also tell you how to link the figure files in Word. You'll often hear us talk about this. So we finally explain how to do that and why it's important that you do that too. So again, we've got some downloadable links. We talk a little bit about the image quality check tool. Again, we've been over that. Auto shapes and word shapes as well, they're not accepted by the submission interface. So make sure that you don't use those. And then one of the final clauses is the other drafting aspects. So this is really about the things that we cover in webinars, but it's a very, very brief overview. So for example, clauses 1, 2, and 3, these are obligatory clauses, you need to have them. We talk in depth about each one. We also give you a link to the internal regulations part 3 with the exact clause. So if you do want any specific information on, say, the normative references, you know exactly where to go. So it should be much clearer for you. Terms and definitions as well, and then a little bit on tables, a little bit on formulae too. This is relatively new to the internal regulations part 3 from 2020. This was also taken from ISO. So there's something now on inclusive language. So this is a language that's neutral, so i.e. non-gender specific, and should be used where possible. We've given you some examples that we often see on the European deliverable side, but there is a comprehensive list that's given in the ISO House Style Guide. So I recommend that you take a look at that when you can. It just helps us to avoid those stereotypes assumptions based on gender, race, different backgrounds, age, that kind of thing. Keeps everything neutral. So then once you finish your drafting, we talk about how to submit the text to us. So for CEN, you're obliged to use the submission interface. If you have any problems with the submission interface, you can contact production at centennial.eu and our colleagues will help you with that. We also then have an FAQ. So as I said, these are questions that have actually been asked to us that we get quite a lot. So hopefully some of the answers here should be useful for you. Simply just a case of click and it'll give you the answer. Should be all fairly self-explanatory. I want to highlight this one specifically though, just the technical report specifically. There are new additional rules for technical reports, which we did cover in a webinar. So you can take a look at the series on that. These rules are also found in the internal regulations part 3. So that is the lovely shiny new BOSS page that you can go and take a look at and read through as you see fit. So if we go back to the presentation, I want to talk a little bit now about the Send Simple template and the guide, because we have made some updates here. So the Send Simple template, we often mention it. It is obligatory to use for both new work and revised deliverables, as I said on the BOSS page. And this does include TS and TR as well. We do have one for amendments that's in the pipeline, and we're currently in the process of finalizing that, so keep a lookout for that this year. The reason we ask you to use the simple template is because it includes all the applicable styling that the editors need to help create an XML file. It also helps to avoid any kind of delay and that kind of thing if we have to tell you that we've changed things, or if something looks different than what you provided to us in the beginning. It helps to avoid any kind of surprises like that. It also helps you with the layout of each element, so we will take a look through the template very quickly. But it helps you with the layout of each element, specifically the terms and definitions, for example. It gives guidance on drafting and what is and isn't allowed while giving you a real-time example. It's plug and play in mentality, so you download and you can type straight into it. And we do have a dedicated in-depth webinar on what to do, and you have the link right there. The new part of this is a quick start guide, which is a downloadable PDF. It really covers everything that's in this webinar, so if you don't really fancy listening to my lovely voice for a little bit of time, you can use this instead. It tells you how to use the template, how to style everything correctly, and we do keep it updated in line with IR3 as well. So where can you find it? Again, I've given you the link here, just to show you if we go back to the boss. So you go to the reference material, and this time to forms and templates, and then technical work. And it is right here. So here we've got the simple template, which if I click, it downloads here, as it did earlier. This is the new thing, Quick Start Guide, which opens as a PDF and takes its time. There we go. So it's a PDF file. As I said, you've got the table of contents that you can click through. Theoretically, there we go. It takes you through from the very beginning, from downloading the template, right the way through to setting your Word up so that you can see everything that we talk about, so that you can really get optimal use out of this. Using the styling palette, how to see what styles you've applied, how to set up your Word so that you can see the styles as well. Just things to make your life much easier when you're using the template. We also give you, so this is quite important as well and quite interesting. So we talk about the European forward. So this does change depending on the deliverable. And we were made aware that not many people know exactly how to fill this out and what parts you can delete, what parts you need to keep. So we've tried to make that clear as well. So then we've got things on styling each element as well. So in this case, it's the European forward. So we tell you the title needs to be this, the text needs to be this, any lists is this. So we've tried to make it as clear as possible for you. And this covers absolutely every single element in there. So clause 2, we tell you it's obligatory even if it's empty as well. In the template itself, there is the introductory wording in there too, which is also why we ask you to use that, because we keep that up to date. So if we have a little scroll through, you can see it. We tried to follow the structure of a European deliverable as well, where we could, just to keep everything nice and harmonious. So we show you, we're aware that not everybody has access to math type for formulae as well. So we show you how to insert those using the built-in equation builder as well. So we tried to make this as clear as possible. We talk about the headers and footers too. And this is important as well, because we understand that a lot of people don't know how to create the table of contents. So we showed you how to do this, because this is one of the questions that the editors often get is, how do I create the table of contents? It's disappeared, half of it's missing. So you can go in and create that for yourself. This is exactly what we do in-house. So now you don't need to stress if you can't contact one of us. And then we tell you how to create the PDF. Even if you don't have access to Adobe Acrobat as well. Annex A is quite interesting too, because we've given you lots of useful information resources as well. So for example, we've got the webinars from 2020. So if we do refresh these this year, this will be updated to the 2023 editions. The simple template and quick start and drafting guidance webinar too. It's very long, but I take you through the whole of the simple template and how to use it. If you're still stuck, who to contact and when, basically. Because sometimes you can contact mail production, sometimes you can contact the editor or the sectoral PM. And then Annex B, we give you loads of really great keyboard shortcuts that we use in-house too that make your drafting life a lot easier, should do. So yeah, this little document really is quite useful. All right, so some FAQs. If you've used these resources and you're still stuck, what should you do? Contact Mail Production and somebody will be able to help you. Either they will direct you to someone in Mail Production or they'll direct you to an editor. If you'd like some specific drafting guidance, we do still offer this. So the CCMC editors can offer you with Sailor training, something specific to suit your needs, or we can give you a general training if you want something different to the webinars that we have. If you have an editor directly, you can contact them directly, or you can contact production, and they'll put you in touch with an editor who's free. And again, I've said many times today, there are webinars to help you with specific drafting elements. So you can find the most recent series here. Again, we might update this year. So keep your eyes peeled for those invitations when they come. So if you have any questions about today, you can contact me directly. My email's right there, or you can contact my colleagues in production. That's all I have for you today. That was a lot of information. So we have some questions that have come in, so I'm going to take a quick look at those and get back to you shortly. Okay, so the first question we have is, in what cases can we ask CEN to provide an editor? As I said, if you have any specific questions that you have on a draft, if you have any specific training needs that you have, if you want specific tailored training on a specific element, you can ask us. If you have a draft that you're already working on and you have some questions that have come up, you're not sure if you're doing an element correctly or you've laid something out, that kind of thing, we can also help with that too. If you don't really know what you need, just contact Mail Production and we can figure something out for you. Okay, the next question we have is if there's any way to look up if the actual draft document is already based on the simple template. As a rule, if it was drafted, say, for example, 10 years ago, so 2012, 2013, it likely won't be. So just to be on the safe side, you can always just copy and paste it in if you're revising it. Otherwise, if it was in the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, it should be in the simple template that we can use styling-wise. Not a lot will have changed. If you're really not sure, you can always send us your draft and we can take a look ourselves. We can use our tools and see if they work. And if they work, then it's in the template. But get in touch with Mail Production and we can see.
I think I can reply the next question, Amy, about the fact that when searching on the expert areas of CEN and CENELEC, you cannot find back information that is available on BOSS. It's indeed a bit unfortunate, but I think the reason behind this is because the BOSS is a separate website. So it's a complete separate platform where the information is stored. All I can do is take this information and feedback with me and ask our developers if it can be improved. So thanks for your comment. We'll take it into account and we'll see what we can do for it.
Okay, the next question. If we've received the document back from inquiry and we'll be updating for the formal vote based on comments, can we then assume the standard is in the correct format? If you ensure that you use the text that's CEN edited for the formal vote document, then yeah, you can assume it's already in the correct format. If you start working on the text before the end of the ballot for the inquiry, then it might not be. Especially if you don't use the draft that we edited. That's why we say that you should always contact us if you don't think you have the updated draft. So always use the draft that we've edited. All right, the next question. I've had issues with drafts that are in that maybe not in the simple template. Is there documentation on how to convert it to the simple template? So the easiest way to do it as you're revising it is just to copy and paste it directly in. I know this can be a little bit tedious to do at times, especially if you have a longer text. But there's no quick way to convert it, unfortunately. So you do have to copy and paste in. But if you do it as you revise the text, it can take less time. So kill two birds with one stone. So the next question we have is about updating old figures to the new accepted format for figures that we have. So what would be the best way to do this, and is there support available from CEN in this matter? So as I mentioned earlier, we don't currently have any in-house availability or capability to do this kind of thing for figures. So we would recommend that you contact your NSB drawing office if you don't have the capability yourself. And they should be able to update or edit any kind of figures that you have. So the next question, is the Secretariat responsible for putting the old version of the standards into the latest version of the simple template? So it's no one's specific job, so to speak. As I said in response to a previous question, if you do this as you're revising an old version of a standard, it can cut the work down quite a bit. It is very much an administrative task, but unfortunately it does need to be done. Otherwise, the editors do it on your behalf. And if we have to do it in-house, we can introduce a lot of errors as well. So it's worth just being aware of that. We would say do what you can. To use the simple template is obligatory now for the submission interface. So try and do as much as you can. If something isn't styled correctly, we can fix that in-house, but you should do what you can. So where can we find the inquiry text edited by CCMC to be used for the formal vote? You can simply write to email production if you want access to that. And we can help you. Or if you did contact the editor or you were contacted by the editor during the editing phase, sorry, you can also contact them and we can send that directly to you. So the next question is, does CEN do a check on the IR3 rules when they receive a document for inquiry or formal vote? Yes, we do. We check every aspect of your text according to the IR3. This is the bulk of our job, that we have to make sure that your draft conforms to the IR3. The editors know, I would say 80–90% of that document by heart. So we're really competent at applying it as best we can. We will show you what we do. Well, we have shown you what we do in the webinars from 2020. When we update them for this year, we do plan to do a bit of a live edit. So you can see exactly what we do, how we pick up on things and what the text looks like for us. So that should be interesting for you. But the short answer is yes, we do. Okay, so we've had a couple of questions regarding the graphics requirements for TIFF. So we get these comments quite a lot and we are trying to see what we can do to sort of get rid of them or update them, change them, that kind of thing. Right now, those are the requirements that we have. And if they do change in the future, we will be sure to let you know well in advance so that you can make the updates that you need to make. So another question about which NSBs have a drawing office. If you contact Mail Production, we can help you decide or figure out, research which ones actually do. yeah, I don't believe that we have a full list of them. So do get in touch and we can help you with that. So the next one, a lot of work items, there are two options, either working draft or inquiry. So for submitting through the submission interface, there's only inquiry and formal vote stage. I believe you can submit a first working draft through the submission interface. If you are having trouble with this, do get in touch with us and we can help, because it's possible that something else might be blocking you from doing this, or something isn't set up properly with regards to our database. So if you are having trouble, do get in touch. You can send a quick email to production@censenelec.eu. So we said that the Secretariat should do what they can regarding the correct format, the simple template, when submitting to the submission interface. Will the submission interface accept drafts that are not correctly drafted in the simple template? It is obligatory that you use the simple template. I don't know if it rejects it outright based on that, but we wouldn't want to take the risk. I think it does reject them. It's better to have it drafted in that, because it does solve an awful lot of problems for you, but also for us as well. So just make sure that you do use it. If you have any trouble with the styling, you can always contact us and we can help you live. In person, on Teams, we can have quick calls. So there's always a possibility for us to help you with that. But please do at least try to get it into the simple template. We've tried to make it as easy as possible for you. Okay, so final question that we have that's come in. So if the checks on IR3 are done, it relates to a previous question. Why do drafts go into the inquiry with requirements and recommendations in informative annexes? So informative annexes are informative, meaning they're not obligatory to use. We do appreciate sometimes there can be requirements in there, which does make it a little confusing, but it's not effectively the end of the world. Recommendations are allowed in there because they're not requirements, so they're not obligatory. But just be aware of that. If you do submit something with that, we sort of take it case by case. Take it. If you have a specific example that you want us to look at, you can always contact an editor directly or production, and we can advise you accordingly. Because we do appreciate it can be very grey to apply the IR3 at times. So get in touch if you have something specific.
Okay, thank you, Amy. Thanks a lot for providing all the answers to many of the questions. I hope the attendees' questions have been replied. If I can just make one comment about the last question, I would like to inform everybody that all the webinars that we've done in the past, in particular for standard drafters, they're all available on the CEN and CENELEC expert site. So that's the the path you should take to have all the information available for you. We've recorded all our webinars. Should you have questions about any of these webinars, please feel free to contact either Amy, myself, or the production team so we can help you out with any outstanding questions. So thanks a lot, Amy, for this webinar. Thanks a lot, everybody joining and being there until the very end. As promised, we make available the recording of this webinar as well as the complete presentation. So we will have another webinar this afternoon. Should you be working on Senelec drafts, please feel free to join us as of 2 o'clock. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.